It's finally here after like years of closely following and really anticipating this movie. I got to see the Batman and I got a lot to say about it. Like a lot of you guys, Batman was like a childhood obsession of mine. I still read every single comic cover to cover for Batman. I love this stuff. I can eat it up. Yum, 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 yum. So this movie was an absolute treat. My bias comes with that I just love various interpretations of this character. If you want, check out my other videos if you haven't seen them on Batman. But just before we jump into this, because it's really important to point this out because some people miss this, this is spoiler free. I'm not going to talk spoilers until a little bit further into this video, and I'm going to clearly say, hey, spoiler warning. So for now, this part is going to be totally spoiler free. There's your warning. I'm going to clearly mark when the spoilers start. But an overall view of the movie, for me, really long story short, I really, really like it. I think it is, you know, a lot of people are throwing around the word masterpiece. I don't think it's a masterpiece film necessarily, but I do think it's a masterwork depiction of Batman. Now, the movie itself, I actually found the story not as interesting as I was hoping. I didn't think the mystery was super fulfilling. I thought Batman's personal connection and Batman's real character involved with this story left me wanting a lot more. I didn't really get too much out of it. But even still, with the story, it has a couple of things that it just truly understands and truly gets right. Really nails it. And overall, like, I think I could watch this movie 1,000 times just because of how good it looks, how cool the action is, how Batman everything is. It's what a lot of people, I think, were really waiting for. And I think you can honestly say that with every iteration of Batman that has come out. Oh, wow, this is the Batman we've been waiting for, right? It's gonna keep happening because there are so many different, slight different versions. But Batman, I think, is just so appealing overall. And this movie really sells that. Because Batman himself, like, what a freaking presence on screen. The way they shot him, the way they handled him, his height, his weight, the sound design behind his suit, the sound design behind his footsteps, the fact that the way the light hits him, sometimes it never even really shows his eyes and his cowl. He always lights up a room or really darkens a room when he's in it. This movie does such a good job of making Batman look so cool, just doing the more mundane Batman things, standing around talking to cops, looking for clues, walking around with a flashlight, real old school Batman stuff. And yet he still looks shocking, like striking every moment he's on screen, and I love that. You have to really believe that this guy can scare people, and I think he does, especially with how the intro established it, man. It gave me like, woo, shivers. And it is smart how they establish it. I think one of the things that is so refreshing about this movie is that it is, you know, it's a Batman who's into his career a little bit. He's not as traumatized about his parents. We're not getting an origin story. The movie kicks off being like, hi, it's me. That's me, Batman. I've been doing this for 2 years. So that left a lot of room for them to really take their time building out this story and this whole mystery. Again, I don't know if the payoff for me personally was like super worth it, but still, you can't help but just like go along and watch and be hooked the whole time because it's Batman and it's Batman characters. And yes, it is that gritty Batman, that raw Batman, that like dark, like just always grumpy Batman in terms of not just the character, but also really the film itself. It's almost always at night. Like it goes hard on this whole aesthetic, but weirdly enough, it also really understands to like walk this line where like they don't forget that Batman is actually technically a hero. And I can talk about more of that in spoilers, but that whole thing really shows a good job of, and it's again, I think the portrayal of Batman and the mood and the tone and everything, it's like a perfect storm for walking this perfect line, right? Where like this movie, technically people will say that it's more grounded, it's more real than the Nolan movies. But at the same time, it's also weirder and more comic booky. How do you do that? I think that is an absolute freaking masterwork that they've pulled something like this off. Like it really walks that line perfectly, where it is different, it's more real, it's more on the ground, it's more believable, yet at the same time, it is zany, it is stylized, it is cinematic, it is a little comic booky. The other thing I absolutely loved is the city. Gotham City, as you guys, if you saw my Batman Begins video, you know I'm such like a weirdo stickler for how cities are portrayed in movies, and specifically Batman and Gotham City. Gotham City itself, in various interpretations, is itself a character. It is itself its own work of art, and I think in this movie, it does do those things. It does finally, like, it's not just like an over the top Burtonized thing, which I do love. It's not just a hyper real, like, just kind of mishmash of Chicago and New York shooting locations. In this movie, it actually kind of seems like it takes the ideas, the feeling behind those cities like New York and Chicago and makes its own thing. I personally like that it did feel a lot like spooky New York. Like, it was like they took a lot of New York. Obviously, you could see stuff that's very Chicago-y, but they took a lot of New York stuff and just made it like they made like the nasty, gross, like 80s New York. That's what it felt like to me. It's like everybody in the movie is a wise guy. I love it. But it has that perfect mix of it feeling like a real gross, evil, dark city that real people actually live in with some Gothic architecture. It was like this like perfect meld. And to go back to the New York thing, this isn't a spoiler or anything, but on the Gotham news channel, like one of the news anchors is actually portrayed by my local like greater New York area news anchor, Pat Battle. I watch her for like local New York news, and it was really cool to see her in the movie being a Gotham news anchor. That's so cool. But like the mood and atmosphere and all that stuff is what just made me want to stay in this movie world forever. To every crime scene, to every room just being filled like with hyper detail. Everything is incredible, from the architecture to individual grime to the fact that Bruce Wayne, like his Wayne Manor, his like Wayne penthouse is basically like a bloodborne cathedral. That's so sick. All of that stuff really works with the music. Now, the music, I've said this with video games, I've said this with some movies. I think music can sometimes just completely heighten things and really sell things. And it really did here. I thought the music was absolutely perfect from beginning to end. Not all of it was like super duper memorable, like theme wise, but mood wise, it fit so well, and it does stick in you in a different way. We all know the like bum 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 from the trailers and stuff. That's incredible, and I like how that motif continues throughout the movie. Just with that, I believe it's like that timpani drum sound, that boom. Boom, boom. It just works to carry it. And then the other element of it, the heroic themes to it, really help sell a lot of the other types of Batman moments. There's such a blend of like heroicism and a little bit of hopefulness, and then just like dread and like big, scary Batman music. It was perfect. Also, Catwoman's theme really surprised me. Catwoman's theme actually was a little bit evocative of Danny Elfman's Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman theme, which was kind of a cool homage. It was nice to see. And for supporting characters, Alfred, Andy Serkis was great. He was not in the movie enough. I was pretty bummed about that. And then of course there's the Riddler, Paul Dano, doing his thing, very much doing his thing. If you've seen him in a lot of other movies, but he amped it up here. He amped up the crazy factor. I didn't expect to see such a crazy Riddler, but it was cool. It was unique. And I like unique interpretations of these characters. I like new spins on them. And I thought he really worked for this icky world. But this movie ultimately, and I know they've been saying this publicly, the people behind this movie, that they want to make more. And I think Matt Reeves and company are the people to do it, because the way Batman is portrayed here is perfect. And I really want to see this Batman grow and learn and become more, and really see more of Gotham and have more of these characters outlined. Jim Gordon is actually my favorite Batman character, like if we're talking like comics and movies and stuff like that. And Jeffrey Wright was great here. He's probably going to be fleshed out in other things, but I really wanted more of him, because you could tell from the way he played the character, like you can tell that he has all that Gordon backstory behind him. I just want to see more of that. I was just really happy to see like a lot of scenes of them working together. I know a lot of the movies do that, but the way they handled it here felt a little different. It felt more workmanlike, and I just thought they had some really great moments between them, especially with the dynamics of them next to the rest of the police department and the more kind of cartoonishly portrayed, more comic booky police officers. But he really goes in line with how great the movie handles Batman actually being a detective. They had such a strong grasp on Batman doing detective things, which people are quick to say that the other movies didn't really do, but I do remember a really long, drawn-out scene in The Dark Knight where they're, trying to get fingerprints off of a bullet, and it's super intense. Like, it doesn't do crazy high stuff like that. It's a lot more just writing things down in a notebook and thinking of clues. And I really like that. It was simple, but it was good. And again, to bring myself back around, because I'm so crazy. Like, I really like this. I really want to see where it's going to go. And I want to see a second one with an even more personal story, a more personal villain connection, more growth for Batman. And just like, keep it going. Keep this party going. This is so awesome. But I can't really say much more without going into spoilers. So consider this your spoiler warning. Hey, spoilers. Hey, spoilers. Are you ready? Time to talk spoilers. You have been warned. So, first things first, I can't believe Peacemaker showed up at the end. That was insane. But let me just get the thing. I couldn't really talk about it before, but let me just put it out there. What I wasn't super crazy about here was like the mystery, the ultimate conclusion of the mystery. When it got to where it was, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. I didn't feel super hooked. I didn't feel like super intrigued by the clues the whole way. It didn't totally work for me, and that's a bummer because that's what the whole movie is. They set up a Batman who's already established to have the room to make this mystery, and I didn't find the mystery like super compelling or anything. Still, I will give it points for just being unique for a Batman movie. Again, people have talked about how it's like Zodiac or it's like Seven or it's like any of those things, and I think that's great. I think that's really fun to do here, and I just liked seeing that unfold. The other thing I thought was wasted was the idea of like the corrupt Wayne family. This was something that I was so excited for more mainstream folks to be exposed to. It is such a cool idea. Like, what if Thomas and Martha Wayne weren't these perfect shining beacons on a hill? But unfortunately, I've seen comics and even honestly, the Telltale Batman game really handle that so much better. Here, I felt like it was just like Bruce Wayne found out some things about his dad and was like, oh no. And then he went to Alfred and he was like, Alfred, what the fuck? And then Alfred was like, it's not that big a deal, man. And he was like, oh, okay. And then that was it. It's still like there is a learning moment and it does work, but it was a little short-lived, and I wish they kind of explored that more. You know who worked really well with that? Penguin. Penguin is fantastic in this movie. I didn't really have time to talk about him in the non-spoiler part, but holy shit, he was awesome. He was absolutely perfect. He felt like a real dude. He felt scuzzy enough. They made him super New York. I really like that he literally said, "How you doing?" to Batman. I was like over the moon for that. But John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, I thought he was fantastic. He's another one I wish he was in the movie more, but I thought that was like a perfect version, a perfect portrayal of that character. Even if he was a little straightforward, I really like how he worked within the story. But the whole Penguin Batman car chase thing was incredible. I thought it was really, really great. It was more like grounded. The Batman Begins tank scene is really like one of the best things ever, but I think this tops it because it's just like a good old real car chase. But what I also liked about it was how it added the tension of traffic, because that's how it would actually be. And the kind of push and pull of getting stuck in the traffic and the kind of like the horror of him looking in the rear view mirror and seeing this insane vehicle coming for him is so good. So the fact that when it powered up and it has, like, you hear it and you're like, that's a jet engine. Holy shit. He's got a small form factor jet engine on the back of his car because he has so much money and he's so smart. It's awesome. Like, the movie doesn't have to like spell out all of that. That, you know, I like that it didn't need to show him like, I'm gonna buy a jet engine, or I'm gonna think about putting this jet engine. Like, they didn't even have to do that. They just showed the car, and if you know, you know, and it was great. I also like that the car kind of played chicken a little bit. It kind of like, I don't know. So I thought, so a lot of people in the theater were kind of like chuckling because it looked like it stalled out or something. I thought it was him going, go ahead, go. And he gave them a running start, which is just so badass. I don't know what that is. It's sick. Really an incredible moment. Honestly, I do think that the trailer showed every cool part of the movie. And that actually kind of bummed me out a little bit. But it didn't really matter. There are so many great moments in the action I really liked. The choreography was pretty good. I did really like that Batman would like take a gun and swing a gun at a dude like a baseball bat. Like, when he hit that guy with his gun, I felt that. But one scene I really, really liked that I thought was just like peak Batman was at the memorial, the funeral service with Batman and the DA guy with the bomb strapped around his neck, and the Riddler on FaceTime, and Batman and him, and the guy going back and forth, and the tension there, and how hyper smart Batman is and good at figuring out these clues. Like, that stuff really, really worked. I thought that was so Like that could have been ripped from a comic. I thought it was perfect. But really to that point, like I just really like the whole, like, he's super smart, he's quick, he was able to figure out all of Riddler's quick little riddles. To Alfred also, the like brief one good Alfred scene where Alfred immediately jumps in and starts cracking this riddle. That was perfect. But with Batman, I really liked how he was sharper and more observant than everybody. They did a really good job showing it. There were so many times in this movie where he's in a room with cops and investigators and stuff. Like, it was a lot of the movie, and I like that. One thing I really liked in the beginning was him finding a blood stain on the floor and just kind of like observing it, and then a evidence photographer realizing it and going over there and getting a picture of it. Like, just like little things like that are cool. So like I said earlier, this movie does really do a good job of walking the line between being more real and still being comic booky and cool. And I think the other thing it really understands and really walks a great line with is Batman himself, where this movie is all dark and gritty Batman. And you see some people being like, oh, I'm over the broody, dark, gritty Batman. First of all, that's mostly what Batman is. But more than that is that this movie gives you the dark and gritty Batman, but it doesn't lose sight of the fact that Batman is a hero. And it actually, I thought the movie was going to go a completely different direction and make Batman this brutal, mentally unhinged monster. They didn't really tackle that. I still think there's room to tackle some of that. But that aside, this movie really understood that this Batman is a hero and that this Batman does technically save people. And the end kind of hammered that home with an optimistic tone. Like, it still very much had like a Gotham still sucks, but Batman has a little bit more of a realization that it's not just scaring people in alleyways. There's more to this than that. And that is coupled from various things in the movie. For me, it was him seeing that kid multiple times and just thinking and focusing on that kid. But all of that really, like, the movie just understands that he's not just like cool, sad guy that the movie set him out to be. He's more like, that's why he can do amazing things like Justice League and the Bat Family and all of that stuff, because he's not just vengeance. There is more to him. I don't know if I'm explaining it perfectly, but like that's just like how I felt by the end of the movie. I'm like, oh, they can do so much with this Batman. This Batman can go in so many places, and I'm really excited. The only thing though is that he's now established as such a dark and gritty and scary Batman that terrorizes criminals perfectly in this moody, gritty world where it's always raining. But now more people are aware of Batman. A lot more people have seen Batman. He is hero Batman. So how do they keep that scary, spooky, gritty tone going? I say for the sequel, lock him in Arkham Asylum. I'm not just saying like, oh, because it's like the games. I actually feel, no, not at all. I think if anything, it's like Matt Reeves and company want to make like weird, like this movie, they wanted to do Batman, but they wanted to just make a murder mystery detective story. They wanted to do different storytelling. But for locking him in Arkham Asylum, they can really maybe now tackle Batman's psyche, which is something that I thought was a missed opportunity in this movie. You can also play around a little bit with the Arkham family stuff, which was technically established in this movie, nicely enough, and tie in the Joker, the inevitable Joker that they had to reveal. I actually was like, oh no, maybe hold off, guys. So I wasn't crazy about the little glimpse of the Joker. It's early. I'm not going to judge, but like that was the only part of the movie where I was like, okay. I'm definitely going to be in the minority there. I know people are hyped. I don't want to shit on anyone's dreams by any means. And he could be great. So let's see where it goes. I also just gave them $1 billion idea for the sequel. You're welcome. That's not that hard. I think I'm probably the 80th person to recommend that, but hey, this Batman hits all the notes. He kicks ass. He's cool. He's scary. He's dark and gritty. He's still a hero. He lives in the most well-realized Gotham with incredible music. His tech is cool. He's a real detective. His car is sick as hell. I like this Batman. I like this interpretation. I like this world, and I can't wait to see where it goes. I like being right about Robert Pattinson. Nobody wanted to believe me, and I feel like I could keep talking about this movie, so I kind of have to wrap it up. Maybe I'll make another video. I don't know, but for now, that's Batman. Those are my first thoughts. I'm probably going to see it a bunch more times. So if I come up with something interesting and compelling to share with you, maybe I'll put something out. But if you sat and listened to me talk about Batman for this long, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. All I'm trying to do here is just talk about what I love. So for you to come by, thank you. Clicking a like button helps. Subscribing, notificationing helps. I put out videos once or twice a week, but I want to hear from you guys in the comments what you think about this movie. Maybe we try and keep it spoiler free for people who, you know what? If you're worried about spoilers, maybe don't read the comments. Just let me know what you think about the Batman. I really want to hear it. I want to know what you're thinking about, the Joker, what you think about the actual story arc, the characters within. Who do you want to see more fleshed out in a sequel? There's a lot to talk about, so hit me up. I want to hear from you guys. Of course, I'm Jake Baldino. Thank you for being here. Subscribe because video games, pizza's on me.